Today, I'm going to begin with the round 38. The main theme of today's lecture is the reality of the universe and the face of the present universe. The basis of the universe is the intellectual spirit, and it creates a thing or a living creature with the intellectual thought. Before the material was created, the floppy matter, the 솜털물질 in Korean, 솜털물질, the floppy matter was born, and the fundamental basis of the power is the intelligence as well as the wisdom. The time exists only in the belt of material, and it moves as the slated face of the multi-dimensional spiral line. The present universe entered the 12th dimension as well as the 22 trillion years on December 21st, 2012. Well, let's continue uttering the contents of what I mentioned last week. That is, the continuation of the cosmology which the woman alien Shemiaje told to Mr. Billy Meyer of Swiss. As the creation goes on evolving, the spiritual energy becomes more complicated and intelligent. As time flows on and on, the energy obtains more and more material quality, and at last, the basic element for molding or making matter, such as neutron, electron, and the proton, appears. It can be said that the thought is the energy, and the energy gives birth to matter at last. In other words, the thought, which has the element of energy, has the procedural steps containing Johar, consciousness, will, fluffy matter, and at last, this process reaches the final step of forming matter. Here, the fluffy matter is the moving energy just before the process reaches the gas state, and it is the energy circling along the pathway of the multi-structured spiral pattern. Lastly, the fluffy matter makes hydrogen gas, which is the basic element of matter of the universe. In other words, a proton is born in the nucleus, and an electron circles around the proton, which is called the hydrogen. This moving matter is the energy that has intelligence and wisdom. Now the process of the material formation begins, and as time goes on, stars and galaxies are born, and then living creatures begin to be born on planets. By the way, at the step of the floppy material, the step which is the previous one of the ordinary material, the element of time is born. Time is a sort of energy which moves in the pulsation wave. This time is made only in the rings of material or matter. Time moves in the course that has been scheduled already by the multi-dimensional spiral. This spiral provides energy with ways for moving in the multi-dimension. By the way, the Pleiadians have discovered 22 dimensions, and they feel that there exist more dimensions than 22. I mentioned earlier that the scientists of the Earth set up a theory of a 10-dimensional universe, and in the book Mikhail 대천사의 메시지, Earth, in English, Earth, Cosmos and New, from page 241 to 256, written by Orpheus Philos and Virginia Essen, there is an angel's message that there are 7 dimensions in the universe, and each dimension has several attached ones. This is Mikhail 대천사의 메시지, Earth, Cosmos, and New. Well, if each dimension has 3 attached dimensions, for instance, there can be 21 dimensions in all. By the way, let's consider the flow of time and particles here. For example, when we think of the moon, we can suppose that all of the constituent particles can be split into more and more small-sized particles, and at last we reach the world of atoms and electrons. In other words, we come in the world of corpuscles. corpuscle, 미립자 in Korean, 미립자. Electrons circle the nucleus several thousands of millions of times a second, and it is said that there are three types of this circling. Positive charge, no charge of zero state, and negative charge, three charges. Here, when the atoms and electrons are in the positive charge, things can be seen. But when they are turned into the state of zero charge, nothing can be seen. And matters are not composed of material, but they become the antimatter or non-matter. However, when they are turned into the state of negative charge, then they can be turned into the visible matter. Now, let's turn to the moon. On the surface of the earth, if there is a machine that makes the electrons of the moon move faster or slower than before, then the moon will disappear from our sight instantly. Usually, the persons who witnessed a UFO says that it disappeared momentarily. We can think of two cases of explanation here. First, a UFO can run away from the scene with unimaginable speed. And secondly, a UFO stays at one place without moving. But as the UFO makes the electrons of the vehicle move slowly in a second, the UFO can disappear all at once from the viewers. Presently, it is said that several millions of UFOs under the presidency of the Ashita Command exist around the Earth. And the reason why they are invisible to us can be explained by the scientific principle mentioned above. As we live in the third dimensional world and UFOs are in the fifth dimensional world, the speed or velocity of the electrons decides whether they are transparent or not. What is interesting here is that the steps of the universe before the Big Bang and the bright light Johar takes several trillion years, quite alarming. As a matter of fact, these several trillion years can be understood when we think that the whole span of time of the universe from its birth to death takes about 331 trillion years. When we think that man and the universe are similar to each other in many respects, we can suppose that the ratio of the infant span relates to the whole life of the universe, and the ratio of the womb staying span related to the whole life of a man or woman can be thought to be similar. However, in my opinion, the whole span of 311 trillion years of the universe is somewhat too long. On the other point of view, 331 trillion years can be an appropriate span of time. There is a piece of channeling message from an alien living in the Andromedan galaxy in the book of 2012 지구차원 대전환과 선상의 메시지를, in other words, English word 2012 Great Dimensional Change on the Earth and Messages from the Heaven, this book, from page 339 to 340. According to this message, the universe we live in is about to go into a new dimension from the hologram of 21 trillion years into a new hologram. It seems that after December 21st, 2012, the universe has entered the year of the 22 trillion new years. In this universe, there is a lot of energy which does not want to evolve. And that energy, which has become heavy, makes a sort of air pocket, which will explode all at once. And the universe will be upgraded into a new dimension. It is said that the present universe is in the 12th dimension, since the Earth has entered from the 11th dimension into the 12th one on December 21st, 2012. Considering this point of view, the unbelievably long term of 311 trillion years is not so long, but can be an appropriate span of time. Here, we have come to solve the secrets of the time journey. If we want to see the moon, which existed 1,000 years ago, we have only to go into the spiral structure of time. There are two kinds of methods to see the past. One method is the meditation, and the other one is the method of machine. One example of this machine is the UFO, which enables a person to travel to the past as soon as he goes into the transcendental space. 초공간 in Korean, transcendental space. It is said that this sort of ultra-high technology needs the enlightenment of both two sides, that is, the spiritual side and the physical side. The new creation begins to mold galaxies after evolving from the fluffy material. Its movement, circling, and pulsation depend upon the pulsation of time. As time goes on, planets begin to be molded around stars. The new creation begins to understand how to create the kingdom of matter.